Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you in another video. All right, so I saw a video last night that I thought was really interesting on a guy by the name of Ulrich Chomchi, second round pick in this NBA draft. Potentially he's someone who's probably going to get drafted somewhere in the 40s, maybe the 50s. I'm not really sure, but I'm interested in this pick, this particular player, because from what I saw, he has next level speed on the defensive end, next level tools in terms of length and height, and he's a quick jumper. We talked about that before. Guys like Shawn Marion in the past who just can jump twice before you come down type of guy. Like, he's just super twitchy. And Ulrich Chomchi seems to have that in abundance, man. This is a very, very raw player who's going to have to learn how to play basketball. Not that great of a player as of yet, but he's only 19 years old. He's an extreme project, but a type of project where if he goes into the right situation in regards to his development, like say Giannis with Milwaukee, and they're really patient with him, this is somebody who's probably going to turn out to be 6 years, 7 years down the road, probably the best player in the draft. Under everybody's noses. I'm not saying he's Giannis, but the tools that you are excited about are there. You just got to teach him how to play basketball. He was given the body and all of the things that a good basketball player should have as it pertains to defensively, specifically. Offensively, he's aggressive and he's not afraid, which is what I was able to pick up on. He's not talented as a shooter, but he ain't afraid to shoot. He's not talented as a rim runner, but he's super fluid in his motioning. With being as big as he is, I don't remember exactly how tall he is, but he's a forward, 6'8", 6'9", something like that, with like a 7'4" wingspan. But he's super fast. When you talk about somebody who can move with guards, who can track you, oh, he's given that. He was given that from the naturally. So, you know, it's one of those situations where it's like all you got to do is take extreme time with this dude. He's about as raw as they come. You know, you're teaching somebody how to play basketball from scratch, more or less. But you be hard pressed to find somebody better in this draft to believe in as a complete project in that regard. And if you do turn him into what you're supposed to turn him into, if he someday develops into a defensive player of the year candidate, it won't be anybody surprised. Nobody will be surprised by that at all, because he just has all the tools to be able to guard 1 through 5. And he's just faster than most people. Now, granted, that doesn't always equate to him being so incredibly dominant in the future, because what you could be seeing is the beginning stages of human evolution as it pertains to these type of things. Maybe the next guy that comes along 2 years from now be his height, his weight, more talented than him and just as fast as him, and then all of a sudden you got a bunch of guys like him in the league soon. You don't know, because that's how evolution is. You never know if a guy that you are trying to develop, and it turns out that 7 or 8 different people next year are just like him, and it's 3, 4, 5 different people after him. You know what I mean? Then you found yourself believing in somebody that you thought was going to be a unicorn because he was a unicorn of the year that you drafted him, but maybe not a unicorn of the year that he's going to be in his prime. So there's no way of really knowing. I think guys are just getting faster, stronger, more talented in general coming along. But right now, you can definitely believe in the ability to turn him into a defensive monster. Absolute defensive monster. He is fast, man. We talk about fast. It's rather ridiculous how much he has naturally defensively. He has this thing that he does that I was able to see in the video where he pretends like he's drawing a charge, and if he realizes you're getting away from it, he can opt out of that and contest your shot. He did it more than once. Not too many people can do that, where they stand in with their arms crossed and then quick enough to react to whatever you're doing in midair. He's just a really, really, really fantastic athlete naturally. And I think the NBA is inevitable for him. It's just, can he grow, you know what I mean, properly? Can he develop properly? Can he grow properly? Can he go to the right organization? Can they develop the right amount of time into him? All of that. Does he stay focused? All these different things. Because on the defensive end, Ulrich Chomchi is going to be a star. It's inevitable. They just got to work on him. So that's what I see there, man. I just wanted to put that guy's name into this channel. It's 2024. I don't expect for him to be an impact player till like 2029, 2028. But he's going to be coming into this draft this year. And it's going to take some time, but I think he's worth it. I think he's worth putting in your G League situation and just letting him hatch. Working with him with coaches, put him in the strength program. Take your time, just like they did with Giannis. Giannis took what? Honestly speaking, he took about 7 years to fully become who he was going to become. And his first year, he wasn't very talented. You could just see the tools and the body was going to come out to be this what we thought it would be. He developed into exactly what we thought he would be, but nobody was taking him right away in the draft because he couldn't help you anytime soon. He was a real legitimate project. This guy is just like that. A real legitimate project. And if his development don't go right, then he won't manifest. But if he does get into the right system where they're ready to work with him, oh man, you're gonna have he does Anthony Davis-like stuff defensively, man. He has Anthony Davis-like natural ability. So that's what I want to tell people. It's there. The length is there, the quickness is there, the ability to read the floor defensively is there, the ability to track from the three-point line to the paint in a matter of like a hyper-second is there. Like he's next level, and he's going to be likely available in the second round, likely overlooked a lot. And I think the team that gets him, if they know what they're doing, they're going to be so happy they got him. So very happy. So that's what I got to say about Ulrich Chomchi. Out of Africa, somewhere in Africa. So, yeah, man, there was some other things that I paid attention to last night. As I told you guys in another video, I did homework on Tyler Smith. I'm a bit higher on him than I had been before doing that work. I'd seen some videos on him before, but I kind of dug in a little more and kind of took in some more of his strengths. He's a hell of a stretch four. I don't know that he's going to be somebody you want to play the five. He can help on the defensive end, but he's not very talented defensively. He has the length, though. 7'4" wingspan, I believe it is. 6'9", something like that. Power forward. Really known for shooting the ball. He can definitely shoot threes. So if you need to spread the floor, Tyler Smith is somebody you should get. A lot of the people that I follow, mock draft experts, they tend to, on average, really like this guy more than where he's mocked to be. So that's why I looked into him, because I'm like, what are they seeing in this guy? Every time I hear somebody, they're like, oh, I really like this guy. He should probably go sooner. I'm like, but you know what I saw when I did my little homework early on was just kind of a jump shooting power forward. And the commentary on him was that his defense was pretty bad. You know, even though he could block shots, that didn't equate to him being a good defensive player. So I just kind of ran with that. He could dunk the ball. He has some athleticism, so they're excited about that. But kind of a one-way guy in most cases. But you know, from what I saw, if you really need somebody to stretch the floor and you need those qualities, he's a hell of a big man, stretch forward, modern big man. So, and from what I understand, there may be some possibility of him playing some three as well. So, Tyler Smith, you know, I probably ain't picking him up for my Lakers situation necessarily, because I kind of look at him as another Rui Hachimura type. He's probably not big enough to guard the people that I need him to be able to fill in and guard. But just in a nutshell, to have a power forward like that, I think would be very helpful for most basketball teams. And you never know, man. You might have a high-level starter there in Tyler Smith. So somebody I did a little more homework on. Pelle Larsson. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. Three-point shooter. Had some motor issues. Some of the commentary on him in the video that I saw kind of got on his case about just overall effort things. Kind of being a little lax when he should be urgent, not really having a natural motor, but he seemed to have a hell of a shot. Should probably go in that same range as Chomchi, somewhere in the second round. So Pelle Larsson, I don't think I've said his name correctly yet, but I believe that he's going to be somebody that teams that need to stretch the floor are going to target in that second round. So, you know, some guys, man. There's some guys That's the whole point. Jamal Sheed is another one we talked about a little bit. lockdown defensive player, very smart defensive player. Also got a lot of explosiveness in his hops. Can rebound the ball, put back dunks, and somebody that's going to be very explosive, but more so going to make his money on the defensive end. Can't really shoot the ball at all, but a very, very talented defensive player at the guard spot. So also somebody to consider in that same second round range. So I'm just trying to get more familiar with some of them second round dudes. Higher second round dudes, I'm finding out that I don't know as much about. AJ Lawson and some of these dudes, I haven't done enough homework on them to really know what they can do. It's like 2 or 3 guys in the second round, first name AJ, spelled differently. So I got more to learn. I know of AJ Johnson. It's a guy that plays, is really raw, another light, kind of not a whole lot of weight to him, but really good ball handler. Has some really good overall stuff in his game as a guard. So that's somebody to do a little more homework on. So I'm just still trying to get familiar with these people, man. It's a lot of people that are projected to be available to draft in that second round. Some people have certain names in their mocks that you won't hear other people mention. So it's kind of hard once you start getting to the back of the draft. You don't really know who these NBA teams are actually going to want to target. Because once you get in that range, everybody has different names that they like. Everybody has a different quality of things that they're looking for and will accept in terms of negative things that guys may do. So, like me personally, I'm a Trenton Flowers guy. And I was listening to a guy who didn't even have him on his big board. I was like, where the hell is Flowers at? He didn't have him on his big board at all, but he did have some names on there, and I'm just like, man, I ain't interested in this player. You know, some of them names, I'm like, yeah. You know, so, like me personally, I think Trenton Flowers is somewhere in that Comsey range where if you put him in the right development situation because of his athleticism, you can teach him how to ball, and he's going to do more than somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of gifts naturally. And I think that as long as you have a good development program, there should never be a shyness about taking guys like that. I don't believe. So, you know, sometimes it could turn out the wrong way. Sometimes you end up with a athlete that can't ball. that can be a thing, but I don't know. I don't know if I don't trust my development team to kind of get the most out of a guy like that, so long as we take our time with him. Another person that I just keep harkening back to, because a lot of people like him more than I do, is Isaiah Collier. I'm probably as low on Isaiah Collier as anybody. I think everybody's high on him, really. They think he should be a lottery pick. Likely won't be taken over some of the early guards, though. But I don't know, man. I hear what others are saying, and then I look at what I've seen, and I don't see what they say they see. He's a guy who, in my humble opinion, probably should have been playing running back football, man. Like, a lot of what he does best is probably most utilized in that sport. He's not really a high leaper, but he's a strong driver, strong runner. Heavy body, but not overly tall. He's like 6'3", 230, or something like that, which is really good size. But when you consider when it's time to be explosive jumping off the floor, he's not really dunking on people. He's more of what I like to call a layup merchant, which in my mind is not a good thing. I need guys who are powering to the rim. Now, he's going to get to the line because of how much he plays downhill. And he's going to be able to push people around. I think of him like somebody like an offensive version of, what's his name? Plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. Used to play for the Celtics for a long time. Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart was built like that. He's not really dunking on your head, but you also not trying to stand in front of him taking a charge. You know what I mean? He's like a running back. And so Isaiah Collier, the three-point shot, some people are high on it, some people are not. A lot of the issues that he had, from what I understand, are in context with what was going on with the USC program last year. Injury issues as well that kind of provided some of the tape that we saw was him coming back from injury, so that's important context. But I with all of that context taken into account, I still kind of have the same idea about him. That I love him in certain places and hate him in others. I love him in Phoenix. I love him in New Orleans. I love him in Minnesota, where they have a need for a point guard. They have a need for a big guard. They have a big role for a guy like that. They have other shooters around who can help shoot the ball. Like, there's certain things that he needs. Certain things that he needs that I don't know that he can kind of exploit in situations where there's multiple guards, in situations where he's playing behind a bigger name. I don't know if you can really exploit the most of what he does if you have him playing with Scoot Henderson or De'Aaron Fox or that kind of thing. I like him in Utah because I do believe you could probably move Keontae George to the 2 very comfortably. They're likely going to be getting rid of Clarkson. I don't know they're re-signing him. I hear a lot of talk about them moving on from Sexton. So there should be a point guard spot for a team like Utah. And they likely like a big guard. So there are places where he absolutely fits. But like a guy like some of these other players in the top of that range, I'm not seeing what everybody else is seeing. I'm not excited about Isaiah Collier just for every situation and think he's going to be some super all-star player. I think his upside is all-star. I won't deny that. But I think his floor is rather Rodney Stuckey-ish, to be honest with you. Rodney Stuckey, I think, is his floor. Rodney Stuckey had some really good games, and then Rodney Stuckey had some really bad stretches, and so he's just real solid, you know what I mean? Maybe like Tyreke Evans. But Tyreke Evans was extremely talented. It was just the injuries kind of robbed him of a lot. So I don't know if he's as talented as Tyreke Evans, but what Tyreke ultimately became, maybe that's what I think his floor could possibly be. Role-playing Tyreke Evans. So, you know, I'm not overly high. I'm not overly high on him. And that's my point of view. But if you listen to most people, they really are, man. So I'm wondering if I'm wrong, I guess is what I'm saying to you. I'm not overly sold on my own idea of what this player could be, because I've been very wrong about guys, including Keontae George, already mentioned. So what do I know, I guess is what I'm saying. But I have yet to see it with that particular player. I've yet to see it. And as I said, you know, I don't want to overthink this because you could be totally off about stuff like this. But because my Lakers took Jalen Hood-Schifino, I'm just not overly excited about picking up someone I think is another version of him. Another big guard, layup merchant. You know, I think I want a little more explosiveness, or I want a little more shooting. You know what I'm saying? So these are the type of things that I just want for the preference of my team. I heard something about San Antonio maybe wanting to move up to the first pick. Maybe be willing to move on from 4 and 8, as well as maybe throwing in some players to try to do that, so that they can try to get Zachary Richache with the number 1 overall pick. The more I consider what the draft overall situation is, the more I personally like Richache over Sarr for a lot of situations. Not for every situation, but for a lot of situations, including Atlanta's. I just do. I don't doubt that Atlanta fans would rather have Sarr because they believe they need to get their center position straightened out. But when I look at Alex Sarr, or I don't know how to say his name, honestly. I've been calling him all kinds of stuff. I think it's Alexandre Sarr. But when I look at that player, to be honest with you guys, I see a guy who, like Ulrich Chomchi, is very fast. And that's one of the calling cards for this player, because he has so much length and so much height, but can trek back and forth so very well between the point, the paint, and the three-point line, and has a lot of energy and runs very fluidly for his body type. So you're super excited about him. But he has some things to his game that don't make me feel confident that he should be number 1 overall, including a slight frame that makes it so that if I'm going up against heavy dudes, I don't think he can guard these people. They pride him on being a defensive player who can guard the paint. But I see Anthony Davis-like concerns when it comes to him guarding heavier guys. I don't think he's going to have any chance of being successful against Jokic. I don't think he's going to have any chance against being successful against some of these bigger, heavier dudes. So if I'm drafting him to be a center, I don't want to be stuck with him as my center if I know these are the type of centers he's going to be dealing with. He's more of a guy who I feel better about guarding people smaller than him. He's a big dude. He's going to be able to make his money because he can keep up with people that are super fast who are short. I could put him on Paul George. I could put him on Kawhi Leonard. I could put him on, I could trust that he's going to rim protect when De'Aaron Fox is driving down the rim. Or, you know what I'm saying? That is kind of where I see his most value. But if I'm a team like Atlanta and I'm trying to move on from centers and I think he's going to be the center of the future, bro, you're going to be skinny in the paint with him. Real skinny. And for me and my money at the first overall pick, and you couple that with some of his offensive issues, the fact that he doesn't really shoot the ball very well. Now, granted, listening to scouts, they say that the three-point shot doesn't usually come around for most young players until about year 3, year 4 anyway. You're not going to really ask him to do too much shooting. And I respect that. A lot of people are comparing him to Evan Mobley in Cleveland. I'm an Evan Mobley fan. I like Evan Mobley. I think his development's going well. I think he's a little ways away from being some super duper star, but I think all of the different things that you like about Sarr, you see in Mobley. So I definitely like the comp. But the people have to understand, Mobley don't play the 5, man. They have a center next to him for that. So he don't have to guard some of these people. He can be a weak side help defender. He can guard smaller players and trek them around. But you're not going to have him in the paint trying to have success against people at 200 and 300 pounds, man. And you got Zach Edey coming into the league. You got this other guy from UConn coming into the league. You got all these big centers. And he's, to me, is going to be able to meet them at the summit with his length. But they're going to push him around. And I don't see him developing into having that type of weight. He don't look like he had the body type to get much heavier than that. He's like Evan Mobley. He's like Anthony Davis. And as great as defender as both of those players are, we already seen what it looks like when they go up against 300 pounds worth of man. It don't work out. So why am I to believe that Alex Sarr is going to fare better against centers than those players who I don't think he's better than? He's not better than Anthony Davis. And I don't know that he's better than Evan Mobley. If anything, he's just equal to Evan Mobley. I'm not asking Evan Mobley to be my center. Now that I know what Evan Mobley's going to be, he's going to be a fantastic 4. And if I have preference, I'm going to put him next to a stretch 5 who's big. And then we really got something going. But if you don't have that in place, which Atlanta does not, I don't know that Alex Sarr is who you want to use your first overall pick on. I hear they like homie out of UConn. So maybe they should use that to trade down to San Antonio. They can get him at 4. He'll likely be there at 4. They can let San Antonio take whoever they want to take, likely Sachet. And they'll get a bigger center that kind of fits what it is that they ultimately like. From what I understand, they're enamored with dude anyway. So for me, it's like, I'm probably going to do that. If I'm Atlanta and that deal is serious, and San Antonio is going to give me 4 and 8, I could walk away with 2 prospects that can boost my overall situation rather than bringing in Alex Sarr, who I'm not as high on for Atlanta as other people are. I am not as high on him for Atlanta or Washington because they don't have the piece next to him that can give them that Evan Mobley Allen dynamic. And I think that's what makes Evan Mobley as good as he is. It's why the Lakers are looking for a center right now. Because we got Anthony Davis and don't have that dynamic, so we got Anthony Davis guarding these big people. Guys who are built like that, it's not a knock on their defense. They're fantastic defensive players, but they cannot guard bigger guys. They just can't. And so, for me, if I already have that in mind, Alex Sarr is not a super stretch defender. He's an offensive player, rather. He's not an overly talented offensive guy at all. It's not like he has some type of weird handles that are so incredible for his height. He's just a really nice, fast defensive center. But it's almost like when I talk about on the defensive side, I think of a guy that comes to mind right away is My guy comes from the Los Angeles Lakers, who I was talking about a little earlier. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is a guy, because he's so good defensively, you think you can put him on bigger guys. He gets scored on in the paint rather easily against bigger guys. That's not what his superpower is. His superpower is to be able to track around little people. And I look at Alex Sarr has that same thing going on. Alex Sarr has the same thing going on. He's bigger, he's taller, and he's definitely more offensive than who I just mentioned. But it's the same dynamic. You get enamored with the idea that a guy's a good defensive player and equate that to him being able to actually be successful in the center position because he's tall. He's a fantastic defensive player, but and he can protect the rim, but he cannot guard heavier dudes, in my opinion. He's not going to be able to do that. He could be an excellent weak side guy, and he's going to track around the smaller guys. And that speed and taking care of them dudes as they're driving at the rim is what's going to give you that, oh my God, I can't let this guy go type, idea. Because he is a great defensive player. He is going to affect a lot of the floor. He is going to rim protect. He is going to do a lot of things. But when Jokic puts his back to the basket, does a jump hook, he's scoring on this dude every single time, man. And you just can't afford it. When Zach Edey puts his back to the baskets on this guy, he's going to push this man out the way with absolute ease. I can see it in my mind's eye before it even happens. And Atlanta's not going to be pleased with that. And in a place like Atlanta, where you don't get great talent all the time, where a lot of times people don't develop properly there, kind of get lost there and forgotten about, he is destined to get lost and forgotten about, in my opinion. It's not a good place for Alex Sarr, man. So that's what I'm telling people. I don't see it. I see Atlanta being just a place he's going to get lost in, a place that's going to likely not have that center next to him that's going to really be able to help that dynamic be what it's best to be. And they're going to ask him to guard these big people, and it's going to be bad for them right away. And so that's why I'm like, nah, just get out of that situation early. You like the big center from UConn? Take him, man. Clingan. You like Clingan? Take him at 4. Because you're more likely to get the dynamic that you're hoping to get with Clingan, in my opinion, than what it is that you're actually drafting Sarr to be. And it's one of those messed up type of conundrums that I just described, where people are excited about Sarr, but they don't have a plan for Sarr. Oh, Sarr's the best player in the draft. That don't mean that you got the stuff next to him that's bringing out the most of him. You can't bring him to every situation, in my opinion. He's not a natural center. He don't have enough in his back pocket, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to develop it. So that's what I got to say about Alexander Sarr. Meanwhile, if Atlanta's going to keep the pick for me, I like Reece Sachet. And the reason why I like Reece Sachet is the same reason I already said before I even started doing homework. It's because I like the idea of going forward with 2 fantastic forwards, Jalen Johnson and Reece Sachet. I can reset all of what Atlanta got going on and have those 2 in place for my rebuild. You understand what I'm saying? Jalen Johnson on whatever contract I'm going to give him, Reece Sachet on a rookie contract for the next 3 years. I can move on from Trae Young. I can move on from DeJounte Murray. I can start the input of what the future looks like with Kobe Buffkin, who most people forgot about, but I haven't. That's a real guard there. I don't need none of these people. You know what I'm saying? Onyeka Okongwu, I don't know if he's somebody they want to move forward with or not, but I'm imagining he has some value in this league right now as a young power forward center combination. You know what I mean? And from what I understand, they're getting rid of half of them forwards that they got anyway. They ain't keeping Hunter. They're trying to get off of Hunter's contract at all costs. So a lot of people are saying no to Reece Sachet because they're incorporating Hunter into the equation and maybe other small forwards that they got, like Bogey. Bogey's a 2. You don't have to run Bogey at the 3. So they're not as deep at the small forward position if they do what I think they're supposed to do, which is completely move on from DeAndre Hunter. Move on from Hunter. Move on from, what's that coach's, Ken, the guy, Griffin. Move on from Griffin because you ain't using him anyway. Or just keep him in place, but he's a backup. So it's like, Atlanta has some things that they can work with. Most people don't even remember Kobe Buffkin is there. I have not forgotten about Kobe Buffkin. I wanted him on my team and they took him. So it's like, I'm not so certain Atlanta can't reset their whole situation and be extremely happy about just keeping Reece Sachet and Jalen Johnson. You need to move both of them guards. And if you don't feel that that's the best move, I don't blame you. I think Reece Sachet is best to have a point guard like Trae Young or DeJounte Murray next to him anyway, to set him up, because we all know At Shai, one of the things that is most glaring about him and weakness-wise is he can't create for himself. He needs a setup partner. So I do think Kobe Bufkin, and he could probably be that. But if you're not ready to give Kobe that opportunity, keep one of them guards. Keep your Trae Young piece if you want. And I think that's good for Shai. Much better for Shai than Washington is, where they don't have that guard in place. You know, that guard ain't there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, man. Washington needs to kind of draft a guard, to be honest with you. But I don't think they're in the business of moving on from their pick at second. I haven't heard any rumors about them being willing to move that pick. I don't really like Sark there either for that same reason. I really don't. I don't particularly like that dynamic when he's only big down there. They're probably better to have a guy like Clingan than him. Plus, when you're Washington, you need so much that I don't think a defensive-minded center is the most important focus for you. You still need wing players. You still need a leading guard, as we've already said. So I don't know if I'm Washington, if that's the next piece. Now, the argument for them taking the center this year is the fact that they're going to have a high pick next year, and there's much more talented wings and guards in next year's draft. So for that reason, maybe you do mock them a Clingan, maybe you do mock them a Sarr if he falls to them. But just the same, I could argue they could move down and still take Clingan. They could move down, still take another center that'll be available a little further and get more back for their value, in my opinion, than probably taking Sarr. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little too low on Sarr at that point. But I just think when you talk about the value at picks 2, 3, 4, and 5, you just have to wonder if these teams are going to take the right stuff, or they're going to listen to all of the mock people telling them to take certain things that they really don't need. So that's my question. So yeah, man, I just wanted to put that out there. I haven't really been listening to for whose stock has been rising and falling and different things. I still hope that if the Lakers don't have an opportunity to trade up, personally as a Laker fan, I do hope that they will consider taking Holmes, Deron Holmes. I just think that he's the best fit for our specific need. Maybe not the best value for 17, but I think if you're going to fit somebody in to be exactly who you need them to be, I don't know that I can think of a player that fits more of what I think we need than him. Somebody who's a pure three-point shooter, defensive-minded, can rebound the ball. I don't think the upside is crazy great, but I just think that when you need a win-now piece, he kind of checks all the boxes for my team. Now, if we're going to go in a different direction and we don't need to win now, or if for some reason they have ideas about other things they can do, maybe moving up is always a good thing. If you want to move up, I wouldn't suggest taking Holmes at 5 or nothing like that. But if you're going to stay at 17, I think that Holmes is probably the best player for us. I really do. And that's after doing even more homework since the last time I said that. I just really think he fits all of the needs of a LeBron James and Anthony Davis front court. You need that player to come in, three-point shoot, and then be able to rim protect. And if you have that in place, in a firm rotation to a strong enough player, you're probably going to be more pleased than if you address other things and don't address that particular situation. And of course, we've already talked about this with Sarr. It's the exact reason, because I don't think that you can afford to go forward with Anthony Davis trying to guard these bigger guys anymore. If you're not going to try to find a way to get a big guy who can actually play in place so that he doesn't have to take on that type of punishment, then chances are you're going to regret it. Even if you get your favorite guard or something like that, you still got to find a way to guard Jokic. You got to find a way to guard Zach Edey if he's going to a different place. You got to find a way to guard these 300-pound 7-footers, man. And I don't think Anthony Davis is somebody I want to ask to do that anymore. So I hear the Zach Edey conversation. I don't think I'd be very upset if the Lakers stay at 17 and take Edey. I don't think so, but I just think that, like I said, Holmes is probably a better overall fit. I don't know that he's a better player than Edey, but he's probably a better fit for the Lakers' specific needs because of his ability to stretch the floor. And you remember, you're bringing in that stretch 5 player so that you can create space for lesser ball handlers who are going to be crowded out if not for that floor spacer in theory. That's why. So It's not that I just have to have some three-point shooting center because I don't believe in some of these traditional centers. It's because we've had so many issues with floor spacing till it gets to a point where you just want to fix that problem. So that's why I'm hell-bent on that. Plus, I don't see a path to us getting a center if we don't get him in the draft. A lot of people like some of these other centers, you know, some of these names that are out there that are kind of, with all due respect, kind of washed up. I don't want to go that route. Not for my big man position. It's too important. Jokic's going to cook everybody any damn way, but I'd rather a much more talented piece in place than to ask a guy that's been in the league for 12 years to come in and play such an important role for my team. I'd rather that be a young player like who we're talking about here. So, yeah, man, team building stuff, man. If you're going to keep the same dynamic in place, there's certain things you're just going to have to bring to you, man. And I get it. We want guards. I personally like some of these guards more than I like some of these centers. But as I already said, if I bring myself the wrong center or the wrong guard or even the right guard, if I don't have a center in place, I'm going to regret it. I'm going to regret it, man. I just know it. That small ball stuff doesn't work. Point of attack defense is very important. But that point of attack defender is leading them somewhere. And where is he leading them to? Likely to somebody you need to block a shot. So if you don't have that center in place, and obviously Anthony Davis is considered that, but again, how healthy do I expect Anthony Davis to stay? How much energy is he going to be exerting if he has to guard these heavy dudes that are 300 pounds, 280 pounds? In year, 12 for Anthony Davis now? I just don't want to ask him to do that anymore. I think getting that center in this draft is probably the smartest thing for us to do. And you get a rim protector like Holmes who could stretch the floor, you probably have checked the boxes you need. I get Khalil Ware, but he's a little more of a project and a little more of a questionable motor for me to feel confident that I'm going to get the most out of his body as soon as I need to. You understand what I'm saying? 4 years from now, I love having Khalil Ware. Probably way more than I like having a Deron Holmes. Probably way more. But we are a win now team, and if we're going to stay on this timeline, we got to act like it when it comes to picking the right player for ourselves. So, again, some of these guards we really like a lot. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I like Carter more than I like most of these names I mentioned. I do. But what am I bringing Carter to if he's going to have no center, reliable center down there? He's going to be on a bad team getting beaten, you know? So these are the things that I just don't want to see happen. The Lakers are an organization that made a lot of mistakes as of late. And one of the mistakes I don't want to make is underestimating how important completing this roster actually is. You got to complete your roster so you can compete with the field. If you don't, then you just got a lot of nice players that you're ultimately going to need to trade because what you're doing is not going to work. And it's going to be time to rebuild, and that's exactly what it's going to be about. So if the Lakers want to pivot away from this roster, y'all know I'm all on board with pivoting away from this entirely, but you got to act like you're doing that too, which means you got to start trading some people. And I don't think the Lakers are ready to make those type of trades. So we'll talk about it further, man. I'm where I need to be. I wish I remember some of these people's names that I've forgotten. It's not that I don't know who they are, but you know how that goes, man. At the end of the day, hopeful that the team can make a good decision for our present and our future. And I think if we make good decisions from here, we can kind of fix our reputation as a bad organization. Because that's really what we're looked at as right now. A bad organization with a fantastic brand. And you can have a fantastic brand, but if you're running it into the ground, then you're not very happy with your circumstance, and you're going to get run into the ground by the media, which is something that I think our front office is hypersensitive to. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much what I got to say. I'm sure I'll have more content for you, but for now, my name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching.